All right, so a lot of us were looking at this problem yesterday and couldn't figure out why it was 1 minus down here on this guy. And so I just took a look. If I mean, like, this is okay, not really the way we did it in class. Most of us would have taken the initial condition, which I believe was 2, 0, and we would have put that in here, so 0 minus 1, and then put the 2 in for the x. This becomes ln of negative 1, but because of the absolute value, it's the same as ln of 1. So e to what power is 1 makes this side 0. And then I end up with c has a value of 1/2. And then what we normally would have done in class is go ahead and plug that back in. So if you did that, it was like tricky to figure out why they ended up with this subtraction. So I'm just going to zoom you through this. If I had negative 1 over x, and then I added my c value of 1/2, you could change this to, and you should change this to exponential form. So I'd have e to the, and then you can leave it as negative 1 over x plus half. I think they changed it just so that it would look neater to have the subtraction rather than the negative out in front. Does not matter. And then that would come out to be the absolute value of y minus 1. So if you remember back from like algebra, if you had something like x minus 3, absolute value equals 5, you would have to, you can never touch what's inside here, but you would have to split it up and let what's inside the bars equal either the plus or minus version of what's outside. And then you'd have to solve for both. We don't have the option of solving for both, morning Ollie, because we have to have it equal a certain value. We have to have a 0 when you put in a 2. So in that same kind of thinking, if I was solving this for the absolute value of y minus 1 would have, because you can't change what's inside the bars, would have to either equal e to the 1/2 minus 1x, 1/2 minus 1 over x, or negative e to the 1/2 minus 1 over x. And then you have to figure out which one of those works for these values of plugging in a 2 and a 0. So if I put in a 0 here and a 2 here, and I put a 0 here and a 2 here, it only works for the negative, because if we change both of these by adding the 1 over, this is going to turn into negative e to the 1/2 minus 1/2, so negative e to the 0, so negative 1. And then plus 1 does give us the 0 we're trying to find. So this is the equation that works, because up here, if you put the 2 in, you would get a 1 plus 1. And so you would end up with plugging in a 2 gives you a 2, and that's not the point we're trying to get. So of the two options, plus or minus e, because of the absolute values, we end up with the negative e. So when you have your y minus 1 equals, and then we found out it's negative of the two versions, and then when you move the 1 over, you end up with this silly business. So that's just showing that if you had done it the way we did it in class, where you plug in the numbers early on and did not do it this way, you should be able to end up here. But that's the part that's confusing, is that you have to split that absolute value into both the positive and the negative version, and then see which one of those actually gives you the condition that you need. So hopefully that helps.